What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for August the 14th of 2019. And of course, for those that are brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast hosted 5 days a week live on Mixer.com/Samuel Adams that brings you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and it delivers it to your, of course, live feed, as I said, also to your podcast feed as well as the YouTube feed. We got all kinds of feeds coming your way. But today we have a ton of talk about THQ Nordic, which is soon to have a different name, and of course the various games that they currently have cooking behind the scenes at a very interesting group of people making games happen. We will talk more about today, Dead Island 2. We will talk more about a brand new Saints Row game. We have even more information on what the team behind Homefront: The Revolution is doing. I'll give you a hint. It may have something to do with Dead Island 2. And also Timesplitters. We have a variety for you here today on the show. Then we talk more about Tencent because they are continuing to go up in the gaming world, although not in the PC space. Their mobile market is absolutely killing it, as to be expected considering the main demographic of their fan base. Then Newzoo has revealed the watch time for the Fortnite World Cup across Twitch and YouTube, which accounted for a significant amount of time. A very, very significant amount of time. And then finally, Need for Speed Heat has been revealed. We will talk about the trailer right here, what you can expect from the game, which is now launching on November the 8th. A very short turnaround from the official reveal until the release date, which I have some thoughts on that as well. But that's pretty much the lineup for today's show. Again, if you are brand new, I appreciate you being here. If you are watching the VOD version or the YouTube version, thank you for taking the time to check out the channel, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy what I bring to the table. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top gaming news. First off, development of a new Saints Row title is well underway at Volition. Grab your tiger and your octopus gun. As part of its latest financial report, THQ Nordic has noted that a brand new title, the brain-bending Saints Row franchise, is already in the works over at its stalwart studio, Volition. The new entry in the over-the-top open-world crime sim series is already noted as being deep in development and will be the first fully-fledged sequel since the superpower-themed Saints Row 4, which hit the shelves back in 2013. While no further details were forthcoming, one can probably expect the rampant violence, bizarre humor, and shades of purple, all of which have been a series trademark since Saints Row the Third's tonal shift, which reinvented the series as an overblown, chaotic, anything-goes alternative to games such as Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto V. A move that I will say turned out much in their favor. The untitled Saints Row game is currently in development at Volition for future release, which is yet to be announced. And of course, this is no shock to anybody. I think that everybody kind of expected that we would be getting some kind of Saints Row game because of the popularity of the franchise. People love Saints Row, and that's in large part due to the fact that they did change the approach to the franchise overall from being something of a serious kind of tone, I would say. I would venture so far as to say serious, in Saints Rows 1 and 2, and of course then they completely flipped that on its head with stuff like Saints Row 3, and then Saints Row 4 completely went off the rails with Gat Out of Hell, etc., etc. So what can you expect from the big new Saints Row game? Pretty much more Saints Row. That's pretty much what I would go ahead and pencil in on your release calendar, which by no means is a bad thing whatsoever. A pretty good move if I did have to be the one to say so. But if you were curious as to whether or not there was a brand new Saints Row game coming, it is in fact deep in development currently, and I would say you could be seeing a release around the launch of the next generation of consoles. Generally a pretty good time to reestablish a franchise as present on a brand new piece of hardware. However, as we talked, this was all coming from news around THQ Nordic, which is going to be changing its name. THQ Nordic is going to change parent company group name to the Embracer Group. A new website and visual identity will be launched on September the 17th of 2019. THQ Nordic AB has presented its board of directors proposal to change the name of parent company THQ Nordic AB to Embracer Group AB to clarify the group's structure and strategy with the parent company as a holding company, the company announced. Have they mentioned this as a company. THQ Nordic AB currently has 3 wholly owned operative groups: Koch Media, Deep Silver, Coffee Stain, and THQ Nordic GmbH, all of which remain unchanged. The proposed name change is subject to approval at the company's annual general meeting on September the 17th, and the new website and visual identity for the group will be launched on the same date. And so, to be clear, THQ Nordic isn't actually changing its name. Of course, whenever I first read the headline, this is how it sounded. But I think they're trying to better define what THQ Nordic is, because there are parent companies, there are people that get involved on various levels of the business, and so to be able to more accurately define what each of these levels does and the identity of each of these individual levels is probably a pretty good move going forward, as more and more games are kind of brought under the THQ Nordic flag. Of course, right now, THQ Nordic is famous in the gaming industry for picking up the strange games no one thinks anything of anymore, and then completely remastering them, remaking them, or doing an entirely new entry in the franchise altogether, which I think there is certainly a market for. It's a pretty good move overall, because you have people that genuinely have a deep nostalgia for a lot of the games that you have brought to the table, and some publishers aren't willing to take a risk on them. But THQ Nordic has certainly filled a void, filled a niche, if you will, and boom, there you have it. They are officially at work on some brand new games, and of course, a brand new name. But those games they're talking about are currently in the works, but now we have some more info from the financial report with details about Dead Island 2, Timesplitters, and more, so you can get a sneak peek of what's coming down the pipe. THQ Nordic shared an investment report this morning outlining their sales and earnings for the first quarter of the year. Beyond all the numbers, the report also offered insight in the future of many franchises like the long-delayed Dead Island 2 and Timesplitters. The report states that THQ Nordic saw an 36% net sale increase in Q1, while also sharing a bit more about the future. Dead Island 2, which first announced in 2014, will now be developed by Dambuster Studios. Dambuster Studios' more recent title was 2016's Homefront: The Revolution, and in addition to this news, the report also states that Steve Ellis, one of the creators of Timesplitters, will help plot the future of that series. There are some smaller announcements as well, including the development of a new Saints Row game by Volition, which isn't too surprising, and a new unannounced IP developed by Fish Labs. That's a fair bit of news at a minimum, but Dead Island 2 isn't quite as dead as it seemed, even if there is no sense of when it might actually come out. There have been announcements before about how the series is still being worked on, but this report offers fresh insight into the development process, and maybe we will get to smack more island zombies around after all. And so, will this game actually ever see the light of day? That is yet to be seen, because quite frankly, I don't know that it will. And if it does, in fact, see the light of day, I don't know that it's going to have much success, and I will explain why, because the timeline here isn't really adding up. So, of course, Dead Island 2 revealed back in, I believe, 2014, as the article does point out, and whenever you had the game revealed in 2014, the gaming industry was very different. You didn't have titles like Dying Light. You didn't have a whole bunch of new movement in the gaming industry that is pushing it further and further away from zombies and more towards this loot-based grind like we see in games like Destiny, etc. And so with a brand new gaming industry set piece, I suppose, or a set of pieces to kind of move around, a brand new setup on the board, I don't know that Dead Island 2 really fits in the game, so to speak. Now, when will it come out? Of course, right now we have the establishment that Homefront: The Revolution came out in 2016, so let's go ahead and assume that the team behind Homefront: The Revolution began work on the entry shortly thereafter. If you jumped on board in 2016, which again, still 2 years after the official reveal of the game, let's say that you entirely restarted the process of developing the title from pretty much the ground up, we should be getting close to a release, so I would say that if it is on track, which again, it does not sound like it is on track, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt, then you could be seeing this one again towards the launch of the next generation of consoles, which I think would be a fantastic move to give the game even a small chance, a glimmer of hope at seeing a kind of success, because again, people are ravenous for new games at the beginning of a console cycle, and they are pretty much willing to play anything with a pretty good look. And so, Dead Island 2, I would say, if I had to predict, coming out towards the beginning of the next console generation. But again, so is Dying Light 2, a game that is vastly better as compared to Dead Island 2. And I know we haven't seen gameplay of Dead Island 2, but I can guarantee you we are going to be seeing a much more impressive game from Dying Light 2. But I digress. I know tons of people are excited about this game and Timesplitters as well. I will say on Timesplitters, very cool to see that Steve Ellis is getting on board as one of the creators of the franchise to go ahead and kind of get that series back on track. So that's a pretty good piece of news to get there. I have more faith in Timesplitters than I have in recent days. So that's saying a lot. But overall, a lot coming from THQ Nordic. And again, we don't know any kind of release dates about any of the games that I've mentioned, but hey, at least they are still coming, so you can look forward to that in the near future. But let's talk more about Tencent, because game revenues have risen as Tencent enjoys the end of China's approvals freeze. Tencent's online game revenues increased 8% year-on-year thanks to both consistent performers like Honor of Kings and the lifting of the Chinese government's freeze on approvals. The publisher launched 10 mobile games in the second quarter, which ended on June 30th, 2019. The freeze began in March 2018, meaning that Tencent only launched one new game in China during the whole of Q2 last year. This was a key driver in lifting the company's online games revenue, which includes both mobile and PC titles, by 8% year-on-year to 27.3 billion yen, or roughly $3.9 billion. Mobile games contributed to most revenue and also saw more proportional growth, with 22.2 billion yen, or roughly $3.2 billion, up 26% over last year. The revenue figure for mobile also includes income from games on Tencent's social platforms, the company said, which I guarantee you are more popular than you would expect. Key titles were Honor of Kings, which saw a year-on-year increase in revenue, and the tactical tournament game Peacekeeper Elite, which was introduced as a replacement for PUBG Mobile in China. Peacekeeper Elite has already built an audience of 50 million daily active users since it launched in May, while PUBG Mobile also has an international audience of more than 50 million DAUs, which again, daily active users. So let's take a brief hiatus right here. Again, Peacekeeper Elite, the game that replaced PUBG Mobile in China, which is more family-friendly, more Chinese government-friendly. You get what they did there. This game has 50 million daily active users. On top of that, worldwide PUBG Mobile also has 50 million daily active users. That is, for those that can't do the simple math, over 100 million daily active users between two mobile games that are ultimately the exact same game. That's how you do business. I'm telling you right now. Tencent launched 3 games in July: Card Rider Rush, Game of Thrones Winter is Coming, and Dragon Raja, all of which will fall under its Q3 results. However, all 3 entered the top 10 for highest grossing games on iOS in China. PC games revenue fell 11% year-on-year to 11.7 billion yen, or roughly $1.7 billion. And this is despite a rise in cash receipts for League of Legends, driven by esports themed skins. Overall, Tencent earned 88.8 billion yen, or roughly $12.7 billion, up 21% over the prior year. Net income for Q2 was 24.1 billion yen, or roughly $3.4 billion. And so all of this to say, Tencent continuing to enjoy a rise in popularity. Although I will say I saw a report that their PC business was down 9%. It looks like things are taking a dip over there. But whenever you are dominating the worldwide market when it comes to mobile releases, and also getting into stuff like the movie industry, various kinds of other properties, that's whenever you really don't have to worry about the PC space too much. But if you were curious as to what Tencent was doing, they're over there making a lot of money. That's pretty much how they spend their time 24/7. Moving on, though, let's talk about Fortnite World Cup, because, man, that got some eyeballs, people. That got some eyeballs. According to Newzoo, fans watched 81.8 million hours of the Fortnite World Cup across Twitch and YouTube, and the official YouTube channel beat out the official Twitch channel for viewership hours during the finals. The first ever Fortnite World Cup last month was a massive undertaking, bringing together a number of popular and rising streamers and esports players to try for a piece of a $30 million prize pool. And the spectacle itself, alongside the online presences of those streamers and esports personalities, brought in viewership spikes across Twitch and YouTube, both for official channels and for individuals participating. Epic already announced the milestone of a peak 2.3 million concurrent viewers, the highest viewership for any esports event outside of China. We talked about that on a former episode of the Jampack Report. According to Newzoo, the Fortnite World Cup qualifiers brought in over 700,000 hours of viewership per week on official Twitch and YouTube channels, with Twitch bringing in 65% of that viewership. However, the finals themselves saw higher viewership on the official YouTube channel, with 5.6 million total hours watched as compared to Twitch's 4.5. Individually, a number of major streamers brought in copious hours viewed, including Ninja, who then still initiated the stream on Twitch and saw 3 million live hours during the first 2 qualifying events, more than both Fortnite's official Twitch channel and its official YouTube channel combined, 1.8 million. Meanwhile, Tfue saw 2.3 million hours of live viewership during the Week 7 qualifiers, a competition record. And finally, other unofficial channels not belonging to top streamers are estimated to have brought in a total of 12.1 million hours across the entire event. Altogether, the Fortnite World Cup saw 81.8 million total hours of live viewership, with official channels and top streamers accounting for 85% of that. And man, that is not shocking, but man, that is still very impressive. I will say I'm very surprised to see that YouTube actually outdid Twitch in terms of viewership, because whenever you're thinking about a live gaming event, and of course when you think about Fortnite, people tend to think about Twitch. Of course, YouTube not down and out in 2019 by any stretch of the imagination. People always like to talk about the setup right now in the online creation space, where YouTube doesn't do live content, where YouTube is mainly for VOD. That's quite frankly not true. The live side of YouTube is growing by leaps and bounds day by day, and it's a very exciting time to be on YouTube if you do create live content. But I will also say that I'm not shocked, because the viewership habits of those on Twitch are very different as compared to those on YouTube. And again, I'm kind of talking about myself here, but whenever I'm watching something on YouTube, I tend to be more invested. I'm used to watching videos from start to finish on YouTube, and of course I will watch long form content on YouTube as well, such as podcasts, so maybe I am more toned in whenever I am listening to something on YouTube, which could lead me to watch more of a program as compared to Twitch, where I can kind of bump around, check out different streams, especially if it is some kind of live event and it's covered from multiple angles. I will bump around and check out other streams that aren't necessarily the official stream or even one specific stream. I might jump from one stream to the next every 10 minutes or so just to see what's going on, and that's kind of like my viewership habit on Twitch. But maybe that's just me. I would be interested to see what you guys thought about that, but it certainly does seem to be the case that, hey, the Fortnite World Cup brought in a ton of viewership, with 81.8 million hours viewed across Twitch and YouTube. Dang, that's a lot of hours. However, you know what you might be watching a lot of this fall? Need for Speed Heat, because the game has been revealed and we are going to be watching the trailer right here. Ghost Games has revealed Need for Speed Heat, due for release on November the 8th for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. If you have EA Access or Origin, you can get behind the wheel on November the 5th, but today is the day we can check out the full reveal trailer as of right now. And I actually watched the live reveal of this trailer. So of course, again, Need for Speed Heat, basically of what I am kind of getting here. This is very much so a combination of stuff like Need for Speed Underground and also Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, a game that came out way back in the day. It seems like it's going to have a pretty interesting narrative as well. That's something that has been a trend for previous Need for Speed games over the past few years. But interestingly enough, towards the end of the trailer, we get a couple of snippets of gameplay, and I will say, not necessarily mind-boggling gameplay. I will say the game itself looks very pretty. It does have that kind of expectation, that the expected look of a Need for Speed game. Quite frankly, I don't think this one is going to be blowing anyone out of the water when it comes to revolutionizing the racing genre or the Need for Speed franchise, but in a world where we don't really have any kind of definitive huge racers in 2019, Need for Speed Heat is poised to do very, very well. We've been talking about this whenever the tease began for the new Need for Speed game. It seems that right now, Grid is pretty much the only other racer on the market that is set to come out anytime in 2019. And so whenever you have pretty much a desolate wasteland, racing fans are looking for something to play, especially as the holidays approach. You know, whenever you are a parent shopping for a kid for the holiday season, it makes sense to pick up a new Need for Speed game. It's pretty much a household name at this point and has been for 10 plus years. And so you know that you're going to be pretty safe whenever it comes to the quality of the game, when it comes to the overall, fidelity of the gaming experience, and of course the safety of it all. It's not going to be a risky game by any stretch of the imagination. But if you did want to pick up Need for Speed Heat, again, it has been revealed officially. You can check out the entire trailer over on the YouTube channel. But if you did want to watch it, you can check it out on November the 8th on Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, etc. And you can also play it on November the 8th as well. Of course, as we said, if you have EA Access or Origin, you can jump in early on November the 5th. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. Of course, I do hope you enjoyed today's program, and if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube. If you are listening on a podcast feed, hit that subscribe feed, and boom, there it is in your inbox every single weekday. And again, the times fluctuate because of work schedules, but we always fill you in on the hottest gaming news that you need to know, and you can always catch the show live on Watch Mixer. Of course, that's their official handle on Twitter, but mixer.com/Samuel Adams. I would appreciate seeing you in my chat. It would always be a good time. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.